Wait, what year is it?
I don't
Nobody
know.
knows.
I don't know.
It's 2015.
Do we even have anybody on this? Is anybody listening live right now?
It's
2015.
I have 17 people watching live right now.
It's 2020 season 3.
Now it's 18.
That's dedicated.
2020.
That's what I shoot for. I shoot for double the number of hosts that we have. That's really what I go for.
Wait. Is none of the hosts? No one watch if you're a host because that messes with the numbers. It confuses everyone.
Oh, dude, it's down to 4 now.
Are we included in that?
I have.
Okay, so then we have 7 people watching.
All right, we have 7 people.
The people who bought ads for this show are going to be so disappointed.
Right.
Yeah, they are because they didn't even pay.
Name a vendor, and we'll tell you if they suck. So if you're listening, just name a vendor. Any
of the
vendor.
comments are just staff members now.
And we're going to do this to ensure that we never get sponsorships for the show.
We don't pay people to be on the show, so there is that.
Yeah,
We're calling this new service "Liability as a Service." It's
Liability as a service.
Getting paid.
It's kind of like the mafia. It's like it'd be a damn shame if our podcast started talking about your product. Here's money to not talk about our product. Could you do that?
Yeah, normally you pay for someone to talk about your product.
We should have companies pay us to talk bad about their competitors.
There we go. That actually
a very
is a
interesting
service.
business model. I think they've already mastered that.
John's New Year's resolution was to get rid of all personal ethics. Just like, forget it. Let's go.
Yeah, monopixels. Looking forward to a great show.
Oh,
great.
nerd.
The 7 people that are attendants also work for me.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
Oh,
I put it on my time card at least, so I get normal salary for it.
You use a time card? That's just weird. That doesn't.
Yeah, I got an
Why are we
old-fashioned punch
even
one.
here? I think at the content community call, it was like, are we actually doing anything? And Ryan's like, yes.
We have the news.
Yes, we are.
It's like that's what
Doing it.
that's the only thing.
It's all we got. All right, let's kick it off with the crooked finger.
All right.
Okay.
What a
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a January 2nd edition of BHIS Talking About News, and an episode that honestly should not be happening. So I wanted to take a few moments and thank the 7 people who are listening and watching this. My son is currently playing Minecraft upstairs streaming, and he has more viewers than we do at this moment. So we appreciate that. We have a number of people here. Let's just jump right into it. Let's go into the grab bag of stories, everybody, and let's see what story we should talk about. Oh God, LastPass.
Oh.
Again?
This won't be the last story on them. I'll tell you that.
No, this is the story that keeps on giving.
They really should use GUIDs for these blogs because they're going to run out of dates eventually.
Yeah. I honestly don't know when they were first breached because it's just too many articles.
Are we sure it's not still the same breach as before?
Yeah,
keep
that's
talking
actually
Keep running the same articles.
Yeah.
So pretty much you're in a breach loop.
Yeah, I don't. So here's my thing about this. Okay, so if we go through the fact that they were breached, I don't know how much I care that they were breached because companies get breached all the time. That's not news. I mean, we make it news. I mean, we literally have a section called whales breaching. But we talk about it, for the clicks. But if we're looking at this from the perspective of what do you do as an organization, I want to back up and cover a couple of salient things. One, it appears like the attackers got everything, but it was encrypted. So all the customer data they had access to, but it was the encrypted data, which you would say, okay, well, that sucks, but it's good. It's encrypted. Hold on. Just pump the brakes for a second. Because as much as people are like, well, it's using, world-class AES encryption, we should take a couple of moments and we should let people know that AES has a number of different modes it can run in. One of the main modes that's utilized is something called chaining block mode, where each block, as it's a block cipher, if you wish to know more, go ahead and study for your CISSP. But it's a block cipher where each block becomes the key for the next block. That's good, right? That's interesting with the key and the rounds of XORing and randomizing and all that stuff. It makes it so you can have the exact same stuff encrypted and it will all look different in ciphertext. That is not what LastPass chose to do. LastPass basically read a book on how not to implement AES and was like, let's totally implement it that way. Specifically, they used a mode called electronic codebook mode. And what electronic codebook mode is, and if you're Josh Wright, electronic cookbook mode, which by the way, Josh, I want to make it damn clear, I still think that sounds better. If you're using electronic codebook mode, it means that every block that is encrypted using the same key. Now, the keys are all different based on every customer, and that's good. But this means that if you have two passwords that are the exact same password, it means that their ciphertext is going to be the same. So that means if you have your LastPass database and there's 46 sites and 10 of them are using the same password, you can see that inside of LastPass and you can focus on brute forcing those particular accounts. Now, the question that I want to open up to the people that are listening and for everyone that's here is, what the hell do we do about this? Because there are so many organizations that use LastPass. And before we answer, let's take into account for personal use, you can switch over, you can convert. For enterprise use, it's a lot more complicated. So I'm going to kick it over to Noah first because he's up on the screen. Noah, what's your take on this? Is it like, burn LastPass, we shall all run from it screaming? Or is it like,
No, actually, I was going to have a little bit of different take on it, which is that if you're actually using LastPass as a product, even the fact that you're using the electronic codebook, which is not an ideal form of AES implementation by any means, LastPass's product is sitting, it will tell you that you're reusing passwords and it will scream at you from the rooftop saying, please do not use the same password for everything. And so if you're going to get mad at LastPass, but you're really worried about the electronic codebook aspect of it and the fact that it shows that you can see where passwords are being reused, you weren't using LastPass as LastPass intended you to use it anyhow.
Okay. I think that's a good take because I have that. I have websites that I reuse the same password for because I don't care. And I know that's a crappy take, right? Yeah. But if I have to type it into my phone and LastPass auto generates a password that's 97 characters long for me, and it's hard for me to remember it.
Well, and honestly, the passwords that I'm more likely to reuse are going to be honestly like Hulu, Netflix, things you have to type in on a TV remote.
Yeah. Somebody breaks into my Netflix account.
Yeah. Oh well.
Well, as we've heard, Netflix is going to come down on you. And,
they're going to come down on you.
You're sharing your password with 300 individuals.
You're sharing your password with Thailand.
We're
going to charge you. We're going to charge you a subscription fee now of $300 per person.
Oh, God, that's coming. That's a whole nother thing we need to talk about. BSD, you're up next. Go for it. Thoughts?
Honestly, if I was that company, I would just start looking for different solutions ASAP. Like,
okay.
I mean,
I'm gonna
probably put something.
What do we got? He's got some.
Yeah. So, just in general. So, for example, if I'm an enterprise, of course, personal is a lot easier. But if I'm an enterprise, I mean, I'm not going to just sit around and just keep using LastPass and wait for the next breach. I would probably get my team together and just say, all right, look, let's see what other products are actually out there. I know it can happen in any company. It can happen with any software in general, but it doesn't make sense to just keep sticking with LastPass, and these types of breaches just keep happening. So that my take on it would be just to look for some software, put it in a testing lab, and see what are the pros and cons for each one.
So you're saying at least start the process, right? Like you should start. Yes. You should be looking at alternative options. And for some companies, like, I don't know, hypothetically, if you have thousands of websites that you're sharing across dozens of people, that's not easy, right? But you should be looking into other solutions, right? Okay.
Right. Get a team together and start the process.
Sounds good. All right. Bronwyn.
You remember the scene from Hackers, Too Many Secrets? It's beginning to feel a lot like that. It's like, there's so many breaches. There's so many. and okay, yes, it was encrypted. No, it wasn't encrypted the best possible way. But even if it had been encrypted in a much more responsible and reliable place. Oh, yeah,
He's
that's Louis.
sleeping.
The problem is that our ability to crack things and brute force them is also getting better. And so it's almost like, why get upset at LastPass? Yes, we want people to use password managers. None of them is going to be perfect.
And okay, so I think that brings up an interesting point, right? So if you're looking at using something like LastPass and the attackers get access to it, at some point, like the attackers can inject malware that's scraping memory. Like there's always a way, right? Like let's say some of the people are saying, and there are people that are saying, well, password managers where it's all stored locally on your system are better. Okay. Well, now I run into an issue where if my system crashes, how do I back that up? How do I gain access to it? What if the attackers get access to the source code for the plugin and can actually inject and then take over the plugins? I think that your point of there is always an exploit scenario, regardless of whatever tool or application that you're using, is a very valid one. But it's also an infinitely elastic one. You can basically become like nihilist, where everything is broken everywhere, and you're just like, shit, we're just going to choose something and go with it.
Well, it's what do we do all the time in security, cybersecurity? We always have to determine what is acceptable risk.
Yeah,
and
there has to be a balance between the convenience and the security of it.
Yeah, so absolutely using a password manager is going to be superior to using the same password 50 dozen times. Using a password manager, some are going to be better than others. It's like antivirus. Some are going to be better than others. EDR, some are going to be better than others. So, you know, it's a matter of determining what is the best fit for you, for your organization, for your way of operating, and then finding that solution and implementing it. And if it turns out in time that something doesn't fit, explore options and move on.
Yep. That's a good take. All right. Who else do we have? Hayden, you're up.
If you asked me like 2 years ago, I would have told you that they're all the same. Like all the password managers, whether you're using Apple's built-in stuff or LastPass or 1Password. And I just picked 1Password because I knew someone who used it and they said it was okay. But I think now at this point, it's come down to like a balance between security and convenience. Having like cloud synced vaults are great because if you change phones, you lose a phone, or you want to share a password with someone else in a more secure way than just like texting it. That's really convenient. But then again, you run that risk of that company doing something stupid or not doing something properly. And so you can self-host it and give up some convenience. And, you know, there's different ways to do that where, you know, if your PC dies, you can have a backup of that vault on like a flash drive somewhere. I've tried that route, but it's only as up to date as you keep it. I don't know. I'm conflicted, but for myself, I've seen LastPass not do great recently. So my faith in them is poor. So I would honestly prefer whatever vendor is not them at this point.
You know, if I can jump in with it, because I've heard a bunch
You're
of
next.
Oh, excellent!
You did it.
I did it. So no,
Perfect time.
What I've heard across everyone that said something is you have to understand the tool that you're using, right? And that's what I think it really comes down to. I don't think it's a LastPass thing or a 1Password thing or whatnot. Like if I say, here is a chainsaw, and it can do unlimited amounts of damage in the wrong hands, or it can clear a road and make the road safer, or fell limbs that might fall on a house and make the house safer, all that good stuff. You need to understand what happens when something that you are trusting goes wrong. And I actually jumped in my counter because I keep this in here as an example for lectures. It's a little password keeper, right? This has no passwords in it, by the way. I just have it as a prop. But the reason I say that is this is no different than the software tools, period. And I will die on that hill, because if I'm going to put passwords in here or LastPass or 1Password, I need to understand, how would someone get to this? And am I comfortable with the idea that in the LastPass case, I don't know how they're encrypting things until something bad happens? The question they should be asking themselves is, if this book gets stolen, how would it get stolen? If LastPass gets broken into, how would I reset all my passwords or be made aware of it? And then that is universal across anything. If you think in those aspects, this is just a tool to deliver a need. And then if that tool fails, how do I recover? It doesn't matter what vendor you use.
See, and that's, and I think that you get more and more to that point, the more gray and white hairs you get, right?
What are you saying, John?
So I've got this weird analogy, and it's just something that happened this morning. And I talked it over with CJ, the COO of Black Hills Information Security. We had this weird thing where a customer was like, what is Black Hills Information Security against, like their policy against slavery? And I'm like, we're against it. Like, it's bad, right? Like, do we need that? And like, well, you should really have a policy to make sure that you're adequately working with companies that are against slavery. Yeah. And on the surface of it, you're like, that's a really good idea. But then if you start peeling it back, you're like, wait a minute, this makes no sense. And the reason why it makes no sense is because, do you have an iPhone? It is manufactured in a building that they have nets to stop people from jumping off the top of the building and killing themselves. It's produced inside of a factory that, with new COVID outbreak, with armed guards, are keeping people in that buildlding. So the phone.
But they have a policy, John. They have a policy.
They have a policy, right?
A policy.
Do you wear shoes? I love Patagonia as a company, and Yvonne has basically, they don't sell shoes at Patagonia because he said it's absolutely impossible to ethically source shoes. As soon as you go down to shoes or a lot of clothing that's manufactured in sweatshops and stuff, it's horrible. And I'm using this as an example because if you seriously start peeling at this, it just gets crappier and crappier. And we've done enough security work for enough very large companies that, we're looking at the LastPass thing. People are like, oh, well, they're stupid. They got hacked by a spearfish. It's like, that's every company. Oh, they have insecure software. Great. Let's have a conversation about Oracle. Let's have a conversation about Microsoft. Let's have a conversation about Google. Let's have a conversation about Firefox. Let's have a conversation about all of these different companies. And you can find examples where they've done horrifically dumb things, and you get jaded as you get older. You're just like, at some point you see people that are new to the industry and they're like, change everything everywhere. F this company. We're not going to use it. And I saw that with Microsoft, and I saw that with Oracle, and I saw that, just with company after company. And I'm just like, am I too jaded at this point? Like, cause this looks bad. I'm going to agree with BSD. Like seriously, when you look at the mistakes that were made here, you're like, did they even read a crypto book? It looks bad, right? So
yeah,
I don't know.
It does.
So, all right, go ahead.
All right. So here's my take. Run from LastPass and look for something else. And for a couple of reasons. All right. It's not because I think that they can't get better or something like that. 7 breaches, tons of other examples. But the big thing is that they're selling this as a service, right? So what am I paying you for, right? I'm paying you for access to all these different apps and all these devices, convenience. And I'm also paying for just some level of security, right? Security. And if they were the only ones in the game and they're like the de facto, then it's like, well, it's just too hard to move. But there are other options, right? That have not had this level of issues, right?
But you don't know, Ralph. That's one of the concerns that I have, is you don't know what you're going to.
Sure.
Like, if they're like, oh, well, LastPass, they're idiots. I don't know what kind of horrific implementation these other companies have.
Sure. And I mean, like, think about your threat model, though. Just because, I mean, if Exchange is getting hacked everywhere, you probably should look at not using Exchange, right? Like, you should just consider it, right? Think about that threat model and whether it's worth moving to something else, right?
Sloth Boy had a great point. We got it. Sloth Boy's point, I think, is very valid for this, like this argument. Sloth Boy just put in, the only thing you're trusting them with is to get crypto right. That is it. At least Microsoft is doing a billion things that they're going to mess up somewhere. And I think that
Valid
is
point.
a really valid point. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no!
All right,
that-
is it my
that was
turn
it.
for the hot
You're up,
takes?
Corey. I'm not gonna.
And by the
Corey's
way,
up.
we're listening to
Corey's up.
Ralph's Ralph teased a new upcoming webcast about how to set up Bitwarden on self-hosted if that's your style. But
if that's your style. I
so
actually
stay
had
tuned
something.
stay tuned for that because I'm definitely going to be watching. But I think I think in like my pen tester mindset, like when I'm writing a report, I ask myself the question: how mean do I want to be to this company? How do I want to be like, you suck, you need to fix your security, you need to do X, Y, or Z, or am I more like, well, you're doing a great job, but you just got to really focus over here. How soft do I want this to hit? I think, and when I think of that mindset, I think is this thing that I found systemic, or is it something that's easy to fix? And I think the way that we decide that a lot of times during red teams is based on how they run incident response. It's not did we hack you, it's what did you do when you got breached. So for LastPass, I look at this breach and I look at how they responded. I look at, if you read between the lines, it basically, they got breached. Their data was used, the breach data was used to attack other employees successfully, and that's how this data leaked. So in my opinion, that is, if I was writing this pen test report, I would say ineffective incident response, because whatever data got breached, they didn't prevent it from being used against their employees or contractors or whoever. And to me, that is a systemic failure of incident response or whatever. And that when it becomes systemic, that's when you start running in the other direction. That's when I start throwing out my critical security rating and saying to clients like, act now, the end is nigh. Like, you need to change or else you're going to get, it's not whether you get hacked, it's how you respond.
It's your,
and to me,
it's your Charlton Heston moment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my take is run in the other direction.
I agree with the IR statement. I think that's really good. I will state, if BHIS had done a security audit of the way LastPass had done things, I can guarantee two things. One, using AES electronic codebook mode would have been a higher critical in their overall
in
report.
a password manager. Yeah,
It would be a higher critical. I would lean towards critical, number one. Number two, I guarantee you they would fight us on it. And one of the things that they would fight us on justifiably, and we can deal with this, right? We deal with this all the time, is they would say, yeah, but you got customer data. You weren't able to actually crack and get into any customer data, right? And that is, like, if I had to guess, LastPass did have security audits. If LastPass, as big as they are, I guarantee you they had security audits. I can also guarantee you they had network penetration tests as well. And I can also, can't guarantee you, but I have a sneaky damn suspicion that a security testing firm at some point down the line had came across this and had told them this was a bad idea, and not a damn thing got changed because they weren't able to actually sit down and crack and gain access to customer data. If none of those things are true, if they did not have a pen test, if they did not have a code audit, if they did not have that type of test and the test didn't find this vulnerability or the audit didn't find this vulnerability, then God help us all, because we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg at this point.
And by the
That
way,
means it's
still
time to
better to
go.
use LastPass than not. Even
What's
if
that?
it sucks. It's still better to use LastPass than not
agreed.
use Last. Like,
Yeah.
even all
Yeah.
that being said, it's still better than passwords.xlsx.
So
I
just
love
using
that
the same
file. I find it
password
every
everywhere.
time.
We love
So is
that
it safe
file.
to say that LastPass is turning into web of wireless?
Yeah, you never know.
I don't
hey,
think- no, I
they
don't
have
think
their,
it's
this
there
this
yet. No.
this is their
No, no, no,
opportunity
no, no.
to make those changes and become WPA3 or whatever. But that we'll see. So
wow.
So
I hope
here's
so.
my biggest concern is the practicality of shifting out for an enterprise.
It's so easy. It's not
It-
that hard.
it
Export.
actually, I
just
actually
to
talked about
delete
this.
the export. Ralph has seen this. Delete the export, because we saw one company that exported from one password manager and
Yeah.
didn't delete the export and then
no.
imported, and then we found the export and they were like, "You've got to be kidding me! My IT department is the worst."
There's the thing that I'm most concerned of is, okay, we're switching over to this password manager over here. And we switch and it's like, then they get hacked. And it's like, oh, okay, we're switching over there. It's just
Yeah, it's not like we.
It's
have
whack-a-mole.
seen that
It's
recently
whack-a-mole.
where- It's not like we've seen that recently where we transferred from one major platform to another and then found a bunch of
Hey,
security.
Noah,
vulnerabilities
you're
on
coming
another
through
platform.
real weak. if you can you kick up your mic a little bit?
I can.
You've got this ASMR thing going on.
I'm loving it.
Hello, everybody.
Ooh.
Oh my!
Talking about news.
I was
Quiet
just saying
storm.
if we
Talking about
I am
news.
still working on this, but
There we
if
go.
we transfer, we haven't seen this before where we transferred off one large platform to another large platform and then found a bunch of security vulnerabilities in that ever. And that's a joke because we see that all
That was
the
being
time.
sarcastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have actually gone through the process of doing like a small transfer for like a personal, not like enterprise where you have like a lot of accounts. So not
And
aware.
groups and
But-
sharing and
yeah,
folders. And
Yeah. I get it. So on the the personal side, exporting and importing is pretty easy because all those platforms want you to move to their platform. So they'll make ingesting that version of it very simple. And the export of that is a vault that's encrypted with the same password as the password you're using right now, right? So it's not that crazy, but moving bigger stuff, it can be more difficult. And that's when you got to pull out the manual and ask the next company, hey, what's up? And they're going to be like, hopefully say something along the lines of, yeah, we know.
Well, you would think that 1Password and all these other password managers, they'd be ready to do an import.
Yeah.
From one
You would think
yeah.
that they have that tool in place.
Yeah, they at some point they're going to screw up.
Yeah.
No, it's just like I said, and it's funny because I remember whenever these things first started kicking up years ago, my biggest concern was if I get your password, I have just stolen your credit card. You change your credit card. If I get access to your password manager, I have access to your wallet. And it almost feels like with LastPass, it's like the hackers got access to your wallet, your keys, your car. It's just like Forrest Gump at that point. It's like they get access to so much that way as well.
And maybe more. Like 1Password has sections for like personal information, like social security numbers, passport information. You can store files in there. You can put anything in that. So
I mean, what was it?
Things other than password.
Sublime,
Well, that's,
sorry.
they're not
Sublime
unique in that.
Mud Time said, note to self, after examining the SOC 3 from GoTo, LastPass orders, do not use Travora Business Solutions
Okay.
for doing your SOC.
Oh man!
So
Ouch.
hold on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know who
Sublime,
they are.
they pulled that up, and I was actually going to comment on their previous comment about the SOC audit, because this is something that if you don't know this about SOC audits, and I know a lot of people here are preaching to the choir, you buy and scope a SOC letter audit, right? So like you go to somewhere for a hosting provider and they say, oh, we have a SOC 2 or a SOC 3 or whatever it is. You need to review it because the person who buys it from the auditing company gets to set the standard. There's no requirement that you do a pen test. There's no requirement that they even look at the important things. They say, we want you to test these 5 controls that we absolutely know we will pass. And look, we have a SOC letter. So, I hesitate to throw an accounting or auditing firm under the bus for that, because I would want to see how they were
might
scoped.
put in the audit, hey guys, you really did bad.
Right.
But we passed
Oh,
you.
man.
Scoped.
Ian, that gets into the thing. Like April 1st of this year, I want to create an infosec standard for accounting firms. And we're going to do this because they created, this whole entire information security, SOC 2, Type 2, and all this stuff, all these things, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it's very clearly watered down. It feels like the early days of PCI, where it's like, well, how do we know? Was this company that was breached PCI compliant? No. How do you know? Because they were breached. What do you mean? If you're breached, it automatically means you're not compliant. Like, what? Wait, what? How does that work? So when we're looking at like these different auditing standards, we can rip on Travora, right? But honestly, I would probably rip on the standard far more than Travora.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly.
Because so many of these standards are just hot garbage.
Yeah, for what it's worth, too, Sublime Mud Time, you could be absolutely right. They could suck. I'm just saying. Yep. Sorry.
Well, there's also the ROE. What were the rules of engagement? What is it
You
that
don't
they
see
actually
that,
asked
right?
for? How many times have we been asked to hit, like John said, only these things that they know they're going to pass? And they don't want to go outside of this tiny little box. So no, is that representative of what their actual condition is? Absolutely not. But it's what the customer asked for.
It's true.
I'm trying to see if they list GoTo or LastPass as one of their customers. Because boy, they really like putting their customers on their website. Holy crap.
They probably pulled LastPass.
Yeah,
but they were on there a couple days ago.
I like mono.
not higher education. Holy crap! How did guys, folks? Here, I'm gonna put this link in.
So, by the way, 1Password actually publishes all their security audits, like literally actual.
That
Oh
might
my
be a better way to
God.
go. Yeah.
Just like pen tests. They're
Yeah.
literally just like pentest.pdf. Go ahead and see it on our website. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to dig into the data breach
It's
for
one way to know
LastPass
they
and see if we
fixed
can
it, I
find. We'll be able to find their pen test report and we'll publish it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know how. We actually
Well,
have
Sony got
filter
breached.
them.
We could.
we
I'm
don't
just kidding.
talk about our customers. We don't talk about.
No.
Yeah. So I just shared this. Holy crap! It's
Wait,
like
Del
every
Taco,
company-
they're secure.
Oh
Everyone
my
knows
god,
that.
those tacos! Everybody wants to steal them.
All right, first
Hold
off,
on
we
a second.
must
Wait a
secure
minute.
the strategic taco supply chain.
No,
Go ahead, Bronwyn. Go ahead.
all this means is
Nintendo.
that they did something for those clients. I used to have Nestle as a client. Did I list them? Absolutely. What did I do? I optimized some web pages for them, but they were a client. I was legally able to count them as a client. I'm sorry. I see this. It doesn't tell me what they did for these organizations.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that worries me about that is my pedigree is multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 and up companies, and 99% of the time you hire a company like this, there's boilerplate language in it that says you cannot use our logo.
Yeah.
Period. So
No, they're
it
literally
shocks me
putting
that
their
there are this
customers'
many.
logos on their website.
Ian, what
Yeah.
you just do is you put in your SOW, like a boilerplate, we will use your logo on our website.
Yeah,
It
but-
cancels each other out. It's like none of them existed. None of them. Yeah. It's one
Yeah,
person.
I don't know how this happened.
Ryan, you're a client.
One of two things: either they
Yeah,
have it
they
in their
got me
contract,
on
Thing.
there somehow.
they're basically calling it out, or they're about to be in trouble.
Well, this is probably just in their MSA. It just says like, "We'll put your logo on our website. Have fun." But
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
but
I mean, I
that
think the
logo
gold
thing, the logo matters to these companies.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, it does.
it, like the way that this reads is it's like these companies endorse this company,
Yep.
and like the
They're
companies
so
we've worked
proud
with.
of this. They have a filtering UI.
Oh my god, that is beautiful.
Filter by logo.
No, like I'm
Filter our
thinking,
clients.
and I'm thinking of when I was doing the social engineering CTF a few years ago, and this is a common tactic and it'd be used by anybody, that you go through and you search using, it used to be TinEye, now there's a bunch of others, but you go and search for that logo, and anywhere you find it on a page that isn't the company's, start scouring that page, because now you can say, oh, hey, I'm calling from Trevora and we're just following up on some audit results. And if you've got the right person, they go, oh yeah, no, we did use Trevora for that. Now you get this additional sense of trust. And that's what social engineers and what attackers use all that for, to see where those third-party relationships are. So yeah, I'm starting to lean more towards what Sublime said. Maybe these folks need to sit down and receive the good word of OPSEC.
How about this, Trevora? We strongly discourage you from doing this. I know from a marketing perspective, it feels rock solid, but please stop.
A marketing department approved this. They approved
Yeah.
it.
They put all that effort into a filter, though. They can't get rid of it now.
Yeah, it's too late. It's too late at this point. But no, I could totally see, like, I can almost guarantee you that there's companies on here that would not appreciate their logo being on another company's website.
So Wispo just put in the other part of the logo piece. I have seen that as well. So discounts for putting your logo on the website, that absolutely happens. And
Yeah.
what you're talking about is what's called a reference client. But the people generally know, they're like, can we use you as a reference client, and can we use you on our
It's very
website?
clearly defined.
Very clear. Yeah.
It's not like, yeah. Well, we got
Just
sidetracked.
snitch
there.
now. Just start
Sure.
emailing like Hulu, Intuit, whatever. Be like, hey, come check out this page.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Do
I
we
don't
want
know.
to talk about something other than LastPass?
Yeah, we
No.
could.
please.
No, it's the last patch.
Yes,
show.
we
I know.
should.
Let's talk about Elon.
It's the new app.
Oh,
no.
no.
Please,
Oh,
more last
no.
pass.
That was like a
More
30-minute thing last.
What do we want to
Yeah.
talk about, Elon? I would rather talk.
No,
Can we talk about Southwest Airlines?
Oh,
Tech debt?
Oh my god!
Sorry, actually, I
Yes.
won't be able to talk about that until my baggage shows up a week from now.
yeah. It's got his computer in it. That's why.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so Corey's going to set this one out. I think that this is going to be a classic study for years to come of just how bad of an impact tech debt can have. Because coming from the outside in, it appears that they kept on delaying updating their systems, kept on delaying updating their infrastructure, and the worst case scenario happened, and they're screwed. From what I heard, the system was tracking where pilots and like staff should be. And as soon as it got to the point where it didn't know where anybody was, the system was next to worthless as far as scheduling pilots and stewards and stewardesses on the planes. And the whole entire system just like came down around their ears. So this isn't necessarily a security issue per se, like they got hacked. But I can, like, once again, like, you're watching this stuff from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, I'm willing to bet that they're running some software packages that are like a decade plus old. And I know that that's pretty typical, especially for
Well,
the
we can
airline
set the
industry.
CVSS score to 10 because the availability was impacted.
Severely.
That's right.
Isn't that part of the CIA model? I mean, I think it's in there, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
So actually, my stepdad flies for United. He's a captain on I don't know which plane it is, but he you get rated on different size planes, right? But he flies like usually like internationals and big stuff. Anyways, I was talking to him yesterday about this and kind of like the whole thing, and from the IT side, right? Like obviously the scheduling is a big issue, but also for those who don't know, Southwest used to fly like point to point, so they'd fly the nonstop flights to kind of like fill the gaps. That major airlines wouldn't do, so that you don't have to go through a hub. You could just fly directly from, wherever you live to that one city you're trying to go to, right? You don't have to make a layover. But after COVID, they changed a bit of that. So now they're kind of flying from one city to the next one, right? Like in this order. And they did that before. Yeah, they did that before COVID, but they were doing it a lot more. And the problem is when the systems went down and they didn't know where the pilots were, they didn't know where anyone was, and they're all over the country. And if there's any delays, it even made it worse. And so it all crumbled on itself. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And from everything that I've read, it does seem to me that it is because of legacy systems. Like they haven't been updating and haven't been moving their systems up.
There's some Perl programmer that they called this week, and he got to like say a 7-figure number in response to like how much will it cost for you to come back on the payroll, and he was like, you know what? If I'm gonna write Perl again, I said it'd be $100,000, so it's $100,000.
That is a funny joke because it's true.
You know
it had to.
It is.
That dude had to show up and like bust his butt, and like honestly, to fix this whole thing, like for them to upgrade, it's gonna take years. Right? Oh, yeah. For the whole process, yeah.
Do you want my spiciest take on this? Oh no, let
I want the Carolina Reaper take on this one.
No, Braun went first. Braun, what was yours? And then I'll give you my spiciest.
Pearl or Cobalt?
Oh,
probably Cobalt,
I think the original Saber was written in Cobalt.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Cobalt.
So that was a spicy take. Ian, what's your
spiciest take? The biggest threat to information security, and it happened at Southwest, is MBAs, Masters of Business. Yeah. So basically what I've read so far is that the original CEO, the founder of Southwest, was very people oriented. He was always on the ground. He knew he would go in, he would find out, baggage handlers, this, that, how do all the processes in my company work? So he was very reticent to go through and scrap things that customers liked, or to do things that would impact those employees, such as the pilots and whatnot. Now they left, and the person who was hired in, not the current CEO who's trying to fix things, like every quote you hear from Southwest folks are, the CEO that we have now is great. They just inherited this problem. And that CEO is operating more like the original. The one in between was a bunch of MBAs, and they came in trying to figure out, well, this still works. Well, this still works. How do we maximize profit? How do we maximize profit? And as soon as you go through and you focus on nothing but maximizing profit and not your customer, you develop tech debt like this that gets you the kinds of Department of Transportation investigations.
So, but that also is like, what are you judged on, right?
Sure.
And if you're looking at a lot of those CEOs, they're judged on increase the bottom line, increase profits, increase share price. That's what they're judged on. Mm-hmm. And anything that doesn't directly contribute to that. And what sucks about the stock market, and by the way, I think the entire stock market should be abolished, which is a whole nother conversation that we can get into at a later time. But as Bill just said, it's all short term. Like, what are you doing for your quarterly earnings? So if you're like, well, we're sinking in millions of dollars to upgrade our infrastructure, we're not going to realize that return on investment for 7 years. If you're the CFO, CEO, CTO, COO of that company, you're like, yeah, F that noise. Nope. I want to make as much bank as I can on what I'm being like judged on. And then I'm going to get the hell out and keep moving. And hopefully I'm not the one left holding the bag.
Yeah.
So can we talk about this? Is what happens. Someone had the idea to just reboot an entire company. That's not a thing. Whoever thinks that's the thing, that's not a thing. Like basically, you know, if you read like the debriefs of they were like, we're going to initiate a reset of all of our flights. Basically, you can't do that. You can't reboot an airline. Like you can't reboot an airline.
So,
whoever needs to hear this, I don't know who you are who needs to hear this. You can reboot like a single system. You cannot reboot a whole airline. Okay.
Corey,
Just hear like a CDAT show. No. I saw a movie. I know what we have to do. We have to turn on and off and on again.
Cut the hard lines. Like what? This isn't a thing. What?
So
where?
when the
Delete.
when the transportation department did get involved, right? They were like, where are all the pilots? They're like, we don't know. They're like, well, do you know when they last flew? They're like, we don't know. They're like,
we rebooted.
We're going to ground everybody for 24 hours because they can't fly more than X amount of hours, right? And so that's what they stopped, held stop. Every plane was on the ground for that mandatory time so they could reset all of the times because they didn't know who had been flying and how many hours they had left that they could continue.
What
to
a
fly.
train wreck.
Yep.
That is
What a train wreck.
amazing.
A plane wreck.
It makes total sense.
A plane wreck.
Yeah.
So
Sorry if you
Fly
got
this
stuck.
fast,
I got
but no
lucky
broke.
and didn't get
Yeah.
stuck. I was traveling for the holidays and I
Yeah.
saw like mountains of bags just in every airport I went into. I was like, whose bags are these? There's just mountains of bags. It was so depressing.
well, and I keep telling people all the time, and if you've listened to me on this show for any period of time, always travel with carry-on. Never check unless you absolutely have to. And if you have something you have to check, you're better to ship it via FedEx or UPS the week before you get there. But if you're like, well, I don't know, do I need this bag of clothes and I need this? And
I'm
I
going to
need a
bring
rolling
3
bag?
outfits and 1 swimsuit. I'm going to the
No, one bag, like one backpack. Go get like a 35 to 40 liter backpack that fits in the overhead on a Canada Air Regional Jet 300. And that's what you travel with.
John's favorite
Trust me.
model.
That's easier said than done when you're traveling with multiple laptops, John.
Okay,
I-
alternate plan.
Bronwyn?
Put yourself in the
Bronwyn,
luggage
I agree.
because the luggage
That's-
made it.
Yeah, but that's where I was using I've done that. I've been there. Like I've traveled more with laptops than just about anybody on the planet. We always shipped them FedEx, UPS, because the tracking with FedEx and UPS is light years better than United and American and Delta. It's like, where's the checked bag that I had? Last we saw it, it was in Houston. I didn't fly through Houston. We know. We're looking into it. Could you do me a favor? Could you fill out a form and describe what your bag looks like? It's a black rolly bag. Perfect. We're going to send someone to go look for it. No.
One thing I will say about laptops is you can go with a lot less laptops nowadays due to VDI. So that's kind of what I
Yeah,
started
just
doing.
don't even travel with a laptop. Just buy a new laptop when you get there.
Yeah, and then return it. Just keep the receipt.
I heard a buzzword.
I'm only allowed
VDI.
to work on company devices.
I'm gonna say that works until you're running a CTF for 150 people and you have to take gear with you. So trust me, lots of experience in this area. Lots of experience. But no, it's just don't check bags. Just don't. It's just bad. You don't want to do it unless it's something you don't care about. So. Somebody said Kimberly Can Fix It said, my mom travels the world and brings one small carry-on, but she's retired and she doesn't have a laptop computer. Perfect.
That's the
Awesome.
that's the moral of the story is don't
the
have a
moral of the
computer.
story.
Just
No,
retire.
no,
Just retire.
Retire.
Don't use
That's
them.
great.
Yep.
All right. Do we want to talk about the McGraw-Hill S3 buckets with
I do.
100,000 student grades?
Oh man, I do.
Oh God, this S3 bucket thing. I don't even know how this happens in this day and age. Cause like Amazon, like as soon as somebody creates an open S3 bucket, I like get emails, the account gets locked out. You log in, there's a huge warning. I get text message. Like the last time I set it up for a lab in one of my classes, I had Jeff Bezos showed up at my front door, which is really disconcerting. So how the hell does this
Did he
happen?
wear his cowboy hat?
Yeah. Well, we were hanging out with Cowboy Hat. So.
How this happens is they get an F. They get an F for security. That's the subtitle. It's pretty funny.
You actually want to know how this happens. Is someone important says, I cannot access this from my smartphone. And IT says, oh, that's because we don't have permissions for that. I'm like, cool. Just make it so everyone can access that. This is you're like,
No,
hey, what's the problem with that?
When you set up a S3 bucket, though, it defaults to private, right? So they had to manually
now, but
that.
dude, this was probably set up like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
it was new.
Now, even when you log in now, if you log in and you have an open S3 bucket, it is a warning that pops up as soon and every time you log in, it pops up.
There's some.
I would guess this is legacy.
Go away.
I gotta assume this is
exposed
legacy.
as far back as 2015, so it's like
This is like some engineer was like, we're going to try out this new thing called S3. It's object-oriented storage. It's really cool, and it's all programmatic. No one ever logs in because it's just like some account.
Where it is.
Like someone pays the bill that doesn't even work at the company. You know how it goes.
Maybe they forgot about it. They were just sending data, and they're like, "Oh, we still have that." Whoops.
The app still works. It still works.
I think you just nailed it. I think that there's developers that are using this and they don't know what the hell it is, and it's on a different account. No one ever logs into.
Another thing to like think about with S3 buckets, right? And I've seen this on engagements is that some companies are like, I want it to be public because I want someone to just be able to visit it, right? So what I'll do is I'll make GUIDs, right? So it's just random enough that nobody will see them, but they'll leave something like the file listing available. So they just go to the top level and they just list all the GUIDs and they start clicking on stuff, right? So they'll try GUIDs to hide the data. And I've seen this, right? Where it's like, a double GUID and that file is a PDF of, your bank statement or whatever, right? And it technically is an open bucket because you can read it. But the recommendation, though, is to actually add signing. S3 protocol supports signing, and you can actually sign URLs for very limited amounts of time, and you have to have the signature to view that URL, right? So that's probably another thing you'd see commonly done. So,
but here's the best part of this breach: no one cares about your grades, so you're good. No one.
Wait, because that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, the
one group that very much cares about it, and that is the federal government. And that is FERPA, and that's mentioned in the article. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because I used to work in technical support for colleges and universities, and there is no I know, right?
You did your time. You did your time.
I did. Essentially, we would teach all the help desk technicians about FERPA and warn them about it. And if you ever wanted to get an administrator's attention, all you had to be is like, hey, I think we might have a major FERPA violation here. And they would go blank, just staring at it.
See, I've worked at universities too. And like what they consider to be a FERPA violation and what this is are like, it's like there's a firecracker and a nuke.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that's why I'm curious to see what plays out, because it's across several universities, large, prestigious universities. It's a company that's got deep pockets that they can prove a point against. And here's why those universities are scared. Because you might go, oh, what do the fines look like? Oh, they don't care about the fines. The fines are nothing. The maximum is 1.5 million. McGraw-Hill will be like, all right, why do we even do security? The real reason is the Department of Education can cut off your ability to get paid on federal student loans.
That's the big money.
Here we go.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
And here's the question, though: is it McGraw-Hill that's going to be held responsible, or is it the universities?
The university.
McGraw-Hill is a provider.
University.
Yeah.
But McGraw-Hill is the provider.
No, but the people that are going to take the problem with the government are going to be the university, because they ended up using the service, so it flows to there. So
I mean, it was so much data.
The relationship isn't between McGraw-Hill and the government. I mean, I agree with you, Prono. It's a great question to ask, but just like when you take out any software as a service, or even going back to PCI, which is maybe a little better understood standard, if you have a PCI breach and you say, no, but we sent it over here, any QSA will tell you you can never offload your liability. It's always yours.
Yeah.
I used to be an email administrator for a university. So
sorry.
You got better.
Exchange.
Group wise. Novell group wise.
BSD is like, I've been to war. It wasn't that
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Novell
I've
Brute
seen
Wise. Yeah.
things.
It just keeps going with you, doesn't it?
I've stared into the hellmouth.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
The old
I do
ones.
have one more. I do have one more article I want to get to in the last 9 minutes. I really, really want to talk about the Okta breach again. We spent a lot of time talking about LastPass, but this Okta one probably scares me more from a hot nation state on nation state actor perspective.
Ooh, they got the sweet Git repo.
Yeah,
GitHub.
they got the and this is like the second time. It's almost like they got hacked and like, wait a minute, did we get that data? No, we'll go hack them again.
This all comes down to secret management, though. Think about it like that. So,
The what management?
secrets management.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The developers are like, oh, they stole that crappy code? No big deal.
They even mentioned that in the article. They say like their response is, "Hey, we don't really care because our code, our security isn't dependent on our code." Now, that might be your ideal, but is it the reality?
Ask Microsoft how that's worked out ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to LastPass.
Let's be honest. Microsoft is probably the best company for secure software development lifecycle in the world at that size. Like hands down.
Yeah, if you look at the productive output of what they do,
And
but they've relied on the obscurity, and they still get hit.
I totally have been on the other side of these breaches, and they're like, "How are we going to spin this?" And it's like, just say our security isn't reliant on our source code. That'll get them. Of course, your security is freaking relying on your source code. It's relying on a number of different things. That's just one of them.
If it wasn't, then why isn't it open source?
Yeah, then there you go.
Right.
That is the perfect comeback for this. Like, then open source it. Just release it. All public, open source.
Well, it's like when I teach my cryptography, or when I did teach my cryptography class, I always almost start immediately with the Kirchhoff's principle, right? That you can know the algorithm, you can know how the algorithm's generated, you can know the ciphertext, but as long as you don't know the key, it's considered secure. And I think of that kind of thing when we think about source code. Like if there's no secrets in there, if there's no that, arguably it should be secure. But the problem of transferring that to the source code statement is that source code still gives the attacker hints as to other things they can try.
Right.
Just because the math works.
The corollary is Bruce Snyer's statement, right? Bruce was asked at an RSA conference as a joke, the kind of Chuck Norris type joke. Was there ever a cipher that you were not able to hack? And of course, Bruce Schneier, being humorless when he decides to be humorless, said, look, you never attack crypto directly, even bad crypto. You never attack it directly. You always attack the implementation. And, you can talk about AES, right? Oh, we use AES. Well, how did you implement it? That's what matters. When you're talking, well, even if you're using, electronic codebook mode, well, how are your keys generated? Are they generated on a per customer basis? Are using one key for like all of this crap matters, and it's all there in the source code. So I love Ralph's comment. Anytime anyone's saying, well, our security isn't dependent on our source code, it's like, great, open source it. Open up that GitHub repository so everyone can gain access.
You are being open source. Please do not resist.
Yeah.
It's just a lot like LastPass.
If you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't be fighting this.
Yeah. It's
true.
Bad security hygiene is, I don't know, if it's anytime that kind of like with LastPass, when you're getting breached multiple times, it just makes me concerned and want to look at a different vendor because if it's once or twice, I mean, whatever, that's security's hard. You're not going to get it right. And sometimes the attacker has way more funding than you do if it's a nation state thing. But once it starts happening continually, there's some like systemic issues in that company that are resulting in these poor choices.
And I'm going to come to their defense a little bit. A lot of these breaches have happened very quickly, and you do not turn around a security program that fast.
That is true.
And
I've called that blood in the water to my students.
We're still hearing the stuff from the August breach, right? Like it's like it was bad. It's actually worse. Okay, it was really bad, and that's part of the problem too, because I think it goes back to their IR process is broken, and if you're looking at everything, that's probably the most critical thing on this.
And also, being a password management company, they're a juicy target. And if you're a juicy target, you're going to get hit over and over and over again.
Well, so technically they're identity access management. So they're not actually, they're holding some secrets, right? Like it's a whole, but they own both Auth 0 and the Okta identity platform, right? So it's like, I mean, it's all JWT. That's all it is. Just a bunch of tokens. Everyone's got it.
So now we can finally get really good fishlets for Okta, because writing fishlets for this before
been
was
difficult.
so
We've
annoying.
been using those, but we've been using the Okta phishing attack for a while.
Oh,
haven't we?
yeah.
I think
For
it's been like
years.
4 years
It's
now.
just annoying. It's just annoying
They
to do.
keep
Now we have
updating
the
it. They
source
make another
code.
check. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
you-
annoying.
you know.
It'll be much easier now. We just got to get our hands on the source code after it's
Yeah.
unwillingly open sourced.
Yeah.
Unwillingly.
I'm just hoping no one from Okta calls. I'm just
Oh, I
waiting.
know.
If we already have people that are listening to the show, and they're like, "You ripped on my article. I'd like to come on the show and defend it." This show, I'm willing to bet that there might be some companies that want to come in.
And we literally spent 30 minutes on LastPass, so that would be the first call that I think we might hear.
I don't think LastPass is going anywhere. Like it's
No, LastPass isn't going to call us. They don't.
if they come on the show, if we get somebody from LastPass to come on the show, we're literally going to say, we strongly recommend that you do not be on the show. In fact, I'm just going to put you off the show because I am not your attorney and I care more about you than your attorney does. So
You don't.
Have you talked to your PR department? Like anyone, just talk to anyone. Just ask a friend.
It'll just be a roast.
Did you talk to
It would
anyone
be.
about this?
What's that?
Nothing. Never mind. Ralph said it anyhow.
Oh my gosh. All right, folks, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. I'm tired. I'm excited to be done with my vacation. I'm at the point where I need a vacation from my vacation.
Oh, vacation.
Oh,
on
my.
your vacation.
We hadn't done the news all year, so it's about time.
Yeah,
there we go.
seriously.
Right. Happy New Year, everybody.
You as well.